While I was homeless, I realized there are very few organizations that will care about you before you're profitable. I learned that organizations will take funding for you at the beginning of the year, but when they meet you in April, all of a sudden, your issues aren't anything to fear. I've seen the same organizations with mission statements highlighting everything about me that they wish to save, telling me that there is no use in saving me because my life is not yet a disgrace. Yeah, for sure. Saw a fine nigga. Saw a couple fine niggas. It's just fine niggas out tonight. If it's fine nigga time, you gotta say that. You gotta say when it's fine nigga time. I am just on the room. Ain't even no fair. Let's see something. Davenport to Vegas. Niggas know and bitches know. Let's go, friends. It's just pissing the fuck. Them make that as nasty as possible. Boom. Alright, if you shooting at this, you like it. Ain't nothing about this you should like. Well, she can't even see her own ass right now, so she just talking. They're trying to get me. The niggas are gaslighting me. Now, anyway, ain't no anyway. Ain't no anyway, ain't no innuendo. They done switch out the cashier. They done switch out the cashier. I'm in the bitch and chips in the drink. Chips in the drink, chips in the drink, chips in the drink, chips in the drink. Chips first. Drink second. Chips first. Drink second. Chips first. Drink second, goddammit. The drink second, but the chips first. But the chips first, babe. You got to know when to hold up. Know when to fold up. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. You gotta count your money. Are you sitting at the table? I done played around and glitched on myself, boy. Ooh, I hate it. Ain't nothing you can do with a song like that. Not at all. I got us in the play to say she just spectating. Unfortunately, she just my favorite dog. I'm just watching the horse do his thing. Horse moving, ain't it? It's doing a little something. It's flapping in a way I didn't expect, but it's good.
Man, I ain't never seen this in existence, bro. He said, "Yeah, we fucking yo."
Well, shoot, half of the stuff I would have got now. I'm sorry. Let me get home.
Alright, man.
Fucking honest health strength.
All together, 348. How you doing?
I cannot complain. You said 348?
Yes.
Alright,
I'm complaining. I want to complain about something, man. I don't even know what I want to complain about yet.
ain't nothing worth complaining about, bro. It's a Saturday evening. It's a great day. We alive.
Hey, man, you need to go back or you alright?
Yes, please. For the chips anyway.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a good one, man.
Hey, you too.
For sure. What's this song? Yes, sir. Goddamn pants fault. I know she just stepped out the house and did it. But anyway, I've heard the same agencies that claim to care about your existence tell you if you would have done a better job leaving a footprint, then maybe there would be something worth salvaging. And while I do believe there is an importance in cultivating a great legacy, I also think you'll never have the opportunity to cultivate a legacy if your life doesn't mean anything to the legacy curators. If the people who are tasked with facilitating the execution of your legacy don't see you as worthwhile, they will abandon you in the same ditch that you feel you are mentally and spiritually. Your first low will be your last low, and then eventually your low will become your origin point. You will not remember the time before you derived this pain, this abandonment, this disappointment in self. I think there is a responsibility to take care of yourself and make sure you're nourished and provided for. But I also think there is a serious oversight in understanding how hard it is to nourish and provide for self when self has never seen adequate provision or nourishment. Or even how hard it is to provide for self when self is too depressed or neglected to be able to properly nourish self. Because nourishing yourself is an act of self-love. And when your emotions are too out of whack, it is hard for you to show up for self in a way that allows you to live a happy and healthy life. When your emotions are abandoned, you too are abandoned. And if you abandon yourself and your emotions, then your mindset's effectiveness will certainly come after. Now, when it comes to being homeless, I think there's a big... I almost dropped my drink. When it comes to being homeless, I think there's a big misconception on what preparation looks like, as well as what assistance looks like. It's not just that the government's... It's not just that the government creates a fallacy of what accomplishment looks like. It also creates an unrealistic expectation on what execution looks like in these moments. When you are homeless, an effective day is not the same as when you have a house. Because house effectiveness varies. Are you talking about the temperament of the house in terms of how clean the house is or how nice and settled the energy of the house is? Are you talking about providing for the house, putting ingredients in the house, groceries in the house? Or are you talking about paying bills for the house? Because there are many parts of a house's security that can feel unstable. just like there are many parts of life that can be unstable. And those combined instabilities can make you have a life where being proactive is not what guarantees success nor stability. You can calculate and anticipate potential dilemmas, but that doesn't mean your calculation and anticipation will lead to a solution that eradicates the problem entirely. And if you cannot eradicate the problem entirely, then you will still find yourself bound by the problem. And it is not until you are unbound from the problem that you are able to say, I have a life that is stable and planned. Housing agencies tend to think the only thing that someone is lacking is an opportunity or the funding to pay for the monthly rent and utilities. But I hate to explain to that ignorance that there is more to getting a house or apartment than finding out it is on the market. There are approvals, approval rates, and approval conditions. And without taking those things into account, there is no way you can accurately represent or advocate for the people who are living on the streets or experiencing homelessness to any degree. Whether it's staying with a friend homeless, couch to couch homeless, or living in a sewer homeless, it's more than about opportunities to apply. Even application fees tell you that there is a certain level of discrimination in the housing process. If an application fee is $50 and someone has yet to eat this week, you cannot expect them to get into their house as soon as possible. Sometimes, much like someone finally accomplishing a dream they saved for, they only have enough to pay for what they need. Sometimes people have everything but that $50 application fee. And when you have everything but that application fee, agencies will think you can get that application fee as easy as you were able to get anything else. Because you were able to save, I know you'll be able to acquire, is not something that people who are searching for a house should have to hear. There should be a level of understanding that I am capable and yet without. My capabilities are not limited, my resources are. You can try, but it's truly about access. If you don't know the right people, the right places, or the right things, you'll never be able to reach the places or the heights that others do. And it's not about a lack of ambition. It's not about a lack of pursuit. You can try and apply every piece of wisdom you've learned in life to avoiding homelessness, but that doesn't mean that a bad season won't strike and you'll end up at sea. There is no way to protect from every variable that will present itself relating to homelessness. But there is a way to make sure if you're presented with someone's circumstances of homelessness, you are able to intervene in a way that calculates for and accounts for the variables that are common to homeless people. By understanding what homelessness looks like, you're able to understand what a homeless person needs. And that's what true advocacy should be about. Fulfilling the needs that you know exist, or being educated to the point of being able to fill the needs that you now know exist. If you haven't discovered a new problem along your journey of advocacy and being a better advocate, then you haven't become an advocate. Because advocates have an obligation to learn about the causes that they represent and the people they represent. It's more than empathy, sympathy, and compassion. It's about hard notes, dedication, research, and information. There should be something concrete behind this advocacy. There should be something concrete behind the belief that people need support. You should at least be able to define what that support looks like. You should be able to define what that support feels like. You should be able to define how to execute that support. There should be a method to your support. There should be a system to your support system. There should be some type of routine or some type of consistency in solving the problems that you see presented. If the problem was so bad it required your intervention, why haven't you yet come up with a method that is sustainable? Why haven't you been able to erase this problem and all that it causes? Why is it that every time you're presented with the problem, it is as if it's the first time? You should by now be able to solve the problem reliably without much time available. You should be able to solve the problem without having to get educated on the problem. You should be able to solve the problem without having to be re-educated on the problem. You should be able to solve the problem without having to guess, wander, or assume. There should be a process that is effective and useful. I just think it's common for people to say because they know that something is a problem, they care as best they could. You haven't yet reached the potential of caring. You haven't yet reached the threshold of caring. Your care has not yet become useful. Your care has not yet become salvation. Your care has not yet become something that warrants gratitude. And yet the obligation for gratitude persists. And when you find yourself in a situation where someone is demanding gratitude from you without presenting solutions, there can be a frustration. And that frustration leads to a disheartenment. And that is when you see the homeless population, people like me, feeling disheartened about the systems and processes that were allegedly enacted to protect us. We're not asking for a handout, but we are asking for the pamphlets that contain the information that we need. We are not asking for a handout, but we are asking for a handout. There are resources compiled for people like us. There are agencies. There are people whose specialty it is. Many people went to school and trained to be able to help people like us. But once you become someone like us, it seems like there's never been less information or support. Yet there's more and more funding. There's more and more reports. I feel like I'm constantly meeting people who understand the importance of homelessness and how desperate we are for solutions, and how much of a dire need there is for people to show exemplary character and have courage and utilize bravery and make an attempt at salvaging a world that has cast aside those who don't measure up in the financial sense. And I think that if we create a world where people have to measure up financially, to measure up spiritually or mentally or emotionally, we will never be able to have a relationship that is not bought. We will never be able to have a community that is not bought. We will never be able to have a community dynamic that is not bought. And we will never have a community dynamic we do not have to buy into. We will not have walkable, accessible communities unless we have an accessible world. And that accessible world would be derived from the prioritization of those who do not have the financial means to make certain things accessible. If we do not prioritize making the world accessible for those who do not have the financial means to make these experiences accessible, we will never have experiences that translate to community or community preservation. There will be no community if the only way you can access community is through a transaction. If community is on the other side of an ATM, we will never experience community at whim. If community is on the other side of an ATM, we will never be able to make connections that are genuine. The only thing we will know about the people we are being introduced to prior to having a conversation is that they can afford the same things we can afford. Now we are linked through debt or freedom. Because these relationships are bought into, the more money that is invested in the experiences, the deeper the loyalty. Now money becomes the energy invested. If we aren't able to shift the culture in a way that prioritizes the worth of those who do not have the finances or possessions that are worth as much as others, then we will not be able to have a world or community that is connected. Potlucks turned into bar patios, and cookouts turned into dine-ins. Every experience that is worthwhile seems to be on the other side of diamonds. That's a quote from Ronald Reagan that most people don't know. But it's saying that every experience that seems to be worthwhile in the sentimental sense seems to be on the other side of a purchase or buy-in option. Even if you just think about like what makes people happy in life. Back in the day, like in the 50s or the 60s, when you have your housing boom, the dream that people bought into was on the other side of a white picket fence and a house. The cost of access to happiness or proximity to happiness was whatever the mortgage payment was. Happiness used to be more expensive, it seems. But because we are in a housing crisis, now we have to ask ourselves, where is happiness found? Where is the government or the culture forcing us to invest for our happiness return? What used to be a white picket fence and holy matrimony is now a co-working station or a newly renovated bar. The price of happiness is lower, but the lasting nature of happiness is shorter as well. When you had the white picket fence and house situation, you know, at least you'll be able to say, I got the house. You're not going to be looking back saying, at least I was able to afford that drink. The measure of value is different. We don't appreciate things the same way because of it. But we shouldn't have to rework our appreciation to understand the things we're appreciating today aren't worth as much. I'm not asking you to take the same sentiments in the nights at the bar that you have in buying your first house. But I am asking you to understand that by trying to act like the drinks at the bar makes you happy, you're devaluing the happiness that comes from the first house. These cannot be the same happinesses. So while you're telling homeless people, at least you still have experiences that make you feel human, at least you still have some dignity, at least you're still able to interact with the community, you're telling them those nights that you spent at the bar in college are worth more than everything your career was able to afford you. I'm pretty sure you've gotten a nicer car than you've gotten scotch. A $13 cocktail might be nice, and the $26 glass of wine that you splurged on might have felt like a great accomplishment, but it doesn't equate to that promotion at work or being able to buy that house. There are certain accomplishments you wouldn't trade for the world, and if somebody said, here's a $13 drink from the bar, I'll buy your house for this $13 drink, you're not going to accept the deal. You're going to slam the door in their face. And that's what homeless people are telling you right now. You're not going to act like because I'm able to afford certain small, fleeting happinesses, I'm not missing out on the comfort that comes from having my own home. My house is not worth a drink at the bar. My house is not worth a night at the bar. My peace isn't worth a night at the bar. My stability isn't worth a night at the bar. And my purpose isn't to have endless nights at the bar. I don't see myself to be a bartender, nor a bottle girl. So this demand that I occupy a space that brings me nothing seems to be a little bit laughable. This demand that I appreciate the experiences that I wouldn't seek out and don't bring much to me that I can't explore through another avenue are offensive because it says you don't think I've spent enough time thinking about what would make me happy. So you think I'm the type of homeless person that doesn't have answers. You think I'm still searching for clarity in my circumstances. You still think I'm fighting to soothe my emotions. You think there's an emotional storm that I have yet to conquer. And once I get past that, I'll be free and able to get the home and the things I need. You are still assuming that my lack of a house falls on me, which means you don't believe that there is any circumstance outside of me that would prevent me from getting a house, which means you don't know the system like you think. If you can't account for redlining and discrimination, then you can't be an advocate. There is no cause you'll be able to accurately uplift because you don't understand the nuance of the situation. And if you don't understand the nuance of the situation, then you'll never be able to correctly approach a speaking engagement that requires you to educate others on what's currently going on. You'll say something like, we need socks and we need donations, but you'll never fight for the fact that the homeless should be able to sleep on the park lawn. But also, you'll never fight for the fact that the homeless should be able to sleep on the park lawn with the awareness from the police that they'll be there. You'll never advocate that the city recognizes that homeless people exist. You'll never demand intervention methods. You'll never demand that the city accommodates the homeless people while they are in transition. If the programs and funding are lacking, the benches and the parks should not be. There should be places where you should be allowed to be homeless without being criminalized. If you're not going to provide for me, provide a space for me to provide for myself. I'm not asking you to let me sell drugs at the park, but I am asking you to let me sleep there between 9 and 7. Because at 8, I will provide for myself. I will work the job that you've asked me to work, and I will take care of the basic needs that I can tend to while I am saving for my opportunity to have a home. But I will never be able to have a level-headed enough mind to commit to saving that money if I don't have anywhere to sleep. And it's absurd to me that when you're homeless, all of a sudden the need for sleep goes away. And they talk about the drugs people take, but most homeless people take drugs to stay awake because they can't sleep overnight. There's a plethora of businesses that are open during the day that will let you nod off. A McDonald's doesn't care as much. But there are not too many McDonald's open at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, or as we say it here, 1 a.m. There are not too many places you can go overnight and sleep. There are not too many places that allow you to crash at 5 p.m. Your day does not become less full because you are homeless. You've probably spent more energy than the person who's working a 9 to 5. If you're up at 8 and off at 5, you could act like I want to take a nap at 6 too. But I can't take a nap at 6 because I have to wait for the sun to go down. Otherwise, the police will come around and arrest me or tell me to move. Now, my sleep schedule is interrupted, and my sleep for the night is interrupted because I have to keep relocating somewhere else to somewhere else to somewhere else. A city that is proactive would understand people are homeless and we don't have enough programs. A city that is proactive would understand our shelter beds are full and we don't have any additional resources we can give them. So a city that is aware would fight for decriminalization of homelessness in all homelessness-related circumstances. They would be aware of the things that tie into homelessness and the conditions that homelessness is manufactured from. They would understand that homelessness is a relevant cause to support the dismantling of. They will understand that homelessness can be dismantled and that homelessness is the result of system effectiveness. There's a system set up for people to become homeless, just like there's a system set up for people to go to prison. And to be honest, the system to be eligible for prison also includes the system that was created to make someone homeless. So the system that manufactures prisoners also manufactures homeless people. And usually the homeless people are one step away from the prison. Oftentimes, the homeless community is one step away from that prison pipeline. And when you understand that it is a pipeline, then you're able to stop taking things so personally. But when you stop taking things personally, you realize there is a system that benefits from you looking away. And then you're asked, do I care about this issue enough to be an advocate for it? Do I care enough about this issue to keep pushing back and fighting back and prioritizing reform? Or do I just want to believe that in due time this problem will go away and there is no system that supports this? Because if you decide to be delusional and say there is no system that supports this and all these stumbling blocks are coincidences, then when you get out of homelessness, if someone else around you or someone else you encounter finds themselves homeless, you won't have any empathy or understanding for their circumstances. Without fully absorbing the experience and taking advantage of the opportunity to use your perspective to gain knowledge that corresponds with it or challenges it, then you won't be able to have any understanding when somebody else is experiencing the circumstances. And when somebody else is experiencing those circumstances of homelessness, you won't be able to intervene because you won't feel called to intervene. And it's not to say that you have some type of inability to intervene. It's to say you'll choose not to intervene because it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to you. Which means that you will be the type of victim who blames themselves for the situations they encounter. So if you end up homelessness and you allegedly pull yourself up by your bootstraps, then you'll think everyone can do the same thing as you. So you'll become somebody who speaks against the talking points. You'll become somebody who does not allow change to be made because you don't think change needs to be made. And when people who have firsthand experiences with struggles and oppression say no changes need to be made to the system tends to listen. And then you realize there's more profit in denying your experiences than there is in being transparent about them. And that's how you have counter activists. The people who are never really pushing for progress, but are pushing to be informed enough to be referenced in dilemmas about progress. Well, how should we go about solving this is a counter activist's favorite question to answer. And unfortunately, it's never a real answer that they're given, because as much information as you have, you cannot denounce people's personal experiences. And the person who went through things fully and transparently with an intention to observe and preserve their perspective in the ways that were wise and shed their perspective in the ways that were ignorant, that person cannot be convinced against the truth of their experience. And when you can't convince someone against the truth of their experiences, you can't get them to shut up, because they now understand shutting up is ignorance. There is someone out there that needs me to speak up, and that someone is me. There is someone out there who needs me to speak up, and that someone is the person who spoke up. Because along the way of being homeless, you don't just keep this information to yourself. There's always at least one person you tell, because you cannot survive homelessness alone. It will always be based off the kindness and awareness of at least one other person. It might be someone who takes you into their home, a government worker who gives you information about resources to pursue, a person on the street who gives some money to you, a job that takes kindly to you and hires you. Somebody will always have to answer the call for the opportunity of salvation. Someone will always have to be the one to pick up the phone when God calls and says, hey, I need a miracle from you. Someone will always have to answer the call to be an angel. And because of that, getting out of homelessness is not a personal obligation. It does not just fall on you. You can do everything right. You can have all the money in the world, but if someone is not willing to put you into an apartment, it does not matter how much money you have. When you're homeless, you realize there's always one aspect that can fall and make it so that a very solid plan can no longer stand. It's not about how solid your foundation is in your mind, and it's not even about how solid your foundation is in real life. Again, a lot of people's struggle is on the other side of a leasing agent who's corrupt. A lot of people's struggle is on the other side of a leasing agent who's biased. A lot of people's struggle is on the other side of a leasing agent who doesn't care. If someone doesn't hear your appeal, they'll never understand the severity of your situation. If you plead to someone for change and they ignore your request for salvation, it doesn't matter how much money you have. And that's just one part of homeless related circumstantial ignorance that I think needs to be addressed. It's not just not having money, and it's not just not having a house. It's not just not having money, and it's not just not having an address. It's deeper than the address, and it's deeper than the books. But the books can help give you understanding and context for the situations that you'll have to encounter and the circumstances you'll have to face. Anyway, it's deeper than homelessness. It's about cruelty, greed, and the obstruction forces that encourage people against persisting.